Hey, welcome everyone to the Story Trading Weekly Meetup. We got a double header tonight. We got a deeper dive on Kodak, which we presented last week with special guests. And we got Mark Gomes here presenting a stock as well. So first, a quick disclaimer, Story Trading is not an investment advisor. That goes for all of our guests as well, unless they state otherwise. Investing in securities involves significant risk of loss. This event is being recorded. The recording will be provided to our VIP members, and then parts of it may be published on social media after a short embargo period. For those of you who are watching on social media and not familiar with story trading, what is story trading? What is a story trade? Story trading is the practice of understanding market pricing, aka the story behind the trade through the lens of the four pillars of fundamentals, catalyst, sentiment, and technicals. We collaborate now in a WhatsApp and Zoom community. We're building our own app. If you want to get on the wait list for that app, you could do that at StoryTrading.com, where you can also check out our events, our Spotify channel, our YouTube channel. Now, story trading, when we talk about stocks, we break it down into the four pillars of sentiment, catalysts, fundamentals, and technicals. The idea being that all price action, all overvaluations, all undervaluations can be explained by looking at stocks holistically and breaking down the information into these four pillars so you can understand markets better and position yourself and empower yourself to make better investing and trading decisions. So last week, I presented Kodak, and tonight we got a special guest from social media, Long Investors. He goes by Mike. I'll bring him on in just a minute to give us a deeper dive on some due diligence he did. So we'll do that first, and Mark will get to you on your pick. But first, just a high-level overview, because Mike, Long Investor, is going to do a deeper dive. I want to do a quick 2-minute overview in case you missed last week's show. Here's the chart. We start with that chart. And as a reminder, we try to do that due diligence to, again, understand the story behind the trade through those four pillars. So I'm going to run through this real quick, the Kodak thesis in 4 simple slides. And why 4? Of course, because of our 4 pillars. So we're going to start with never mind the animation there, catalyst. So we're going to start with catalyst. We had this massive insider buying right there, one of our 4 pillars. That's the catalyst, which happened just 2 days. There's animations just happened 2 days after sorry, I didn't finish that title there. After new business initiatives were announced on the conference call, there were no press releases, and much of what's being discussed here is completely new, never revealed by the company before. Some of it, perhaps there were some filings on some of it, but a lot of it was completely new. Third slide we want to look at is fundamentals. There's 2 key slides I pulled out from Y charts. On the left-hand side, you can see the EV to EBITDA ratio. You see the EV to revenue ratio. At the least, looking at that, you can say multiples are not expensive. Plus, this is very interesting. Institutions have been buying up shares in recent quarters, and they've been covering their short position. Very interesting look there. And technicals we look at, that's the 4th pillar. This is a chart by Rexman, who we collaborate with on social media. Poised to pop. There's this chart. He says Kodak is holding and rebounding above the long-term resistance breakout line. Currently, there's a major trend breakout at the circle. If the breakout holds, this can test former highs from previous years. So that's very simple, high level for a review of why I'm so excited about this. I look at things holistically, personally. I don't get too deep in any one pillar. I look at things, on the surface of 4 pillars, and they're all looking really good. That's when I get excited about a trade, and I think we have that here with Kodak. So with that, Mike, are you there, Long Investors?
I am indeed.
All right, great. Awesome. Let me stop my share so you can introduce yourself, and then I'll let you take it away with a prepared presentation you have, and then we'll dive into a little discussion and Q&A.
Sure, and appreciate you having me on. Ben has asked me on before, but I'm a software developer, and we're not exactly known for our presenting and public speaking. So I've declined in the past. However, glad to be here tonight because the Kodak story is definitely intriguing to me. But again, I'm not exactly a presenter, but my presentation is mainly consists of quotes and filings and a patent and things like that. So I have something I'm going to read from, because it got to be about 70% quotes. And in order to do that, I'm just going to read from this, what I wrote up. So I'm going to go to audio now, and I'll read my findings. And let's see here. Give me 1 second. All right. So first, I'll start with how I got into Kodak. Credit to StoryTrading, Ben and Rexman74 on Twitter this past week. Their bullish thoughts definitely intrigued me, so I dug into it farther. Full disclosure, at this point, I hold a position in Kodak, and I'll be looking for opportunities to add more this week and in the future. Turnaround stories have definitely always intrigued me. Typically in a turnaround, the stock has been beaten up and people are often hung up on the past, sometimes even holding on to baggage from former leadership who aren't even at the helm anymore. In these instances, if I can uncover facts early, proving the company has new leadership or direction, proving the new leadership or direction is materializing, I have a chance to take positions before others react during a time while the noise from the naysayers is loud as they sort of live in the past, basically. Furthermore, I'm always more interested when I find key aspects of the turnaround which haven't been PR'd to the public yet, often found only known by those who dig through the documents and filings. I'm considering it advantageous that, to my knowledge, Kodak hasn't PR'd much of the information I'm going to present. I see it as an opportunity counter to the masses who assume Kodak's simply making Kodak 100 film and sort of stuck in the 80s. If you find new developments if you find these new developments have been officially PR'd by Kodak, certainly let me know. I don't see any. Of course, make sure to do your own due diligence before investing, and invest only what you can afford to lose. All right. So despite my trust in Ben and Rex, I always like to look at the bear arguments first. And in Kodak's case, I'm going to start with a few that I found, which first, Kodak, it seems bears feel that the company is stuck in the 80s, sort of the blockbuster perception. And more recently, the original GameStop brick and mortar perception at a time when online gaming had advanced and seemingly left GameStop out. Shares declined to the low threes. Then enter Microsoft in 2020, forming a strategic partnership with the retailer and sending shares higher. Side note, as someone who enjoys a thorough deep dive on a stock, the meme stock craze drives me a bit crazy. Gamma squeezes and such, movements which are often not based on fundamentals of the company. Anyhow, bottom line is that I'm not mentioning GameStop for any other reason other than being a well-known example of a company pivot which caught the investment community off guard. Bear case 2. Some say Kodak is wildly throwing darts to see what sticks. For instance, their brief entry into cryptocurrency in 2018. However, since 2020, the company's had a new CEO at the helm, Jim Contienza. Jim was given the reins to turn around the company, and now, after the recent earnings, there are articles out explaining how he's making good progress. He apparently has cut out any business direction that didn't leverage core skills and resources, as he said none of those were profitable anyhow. He turned the company goals to focus on advanced materials, advanced chemicals, and commercial print. While I'll let Ben address any financial questions, I'll note that year over year, the recent report appears to be a big improvement. In 2020, Kodak reported a $541 million loss. In 2021, they had net income of $24 million. That was reported, here 2 weeks ago. Jim's been working to clean up the balance sheet as well, and ended 2021 with $362 million in cash. Keep in mind, Kodak's market cap on Friday is $495 million. So $362 million in cash, market cap is $495. Bear case 3, the debacle in 2020 with the proposed $765 million government loan to create pharmaceuticals, before which insiders received option grants and purchased shares. The stock went up 100% plus, 1,000% plus, from $3 to $60, all within a day or two of the announcement. And then insider trading accusations ensued. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not sure anyone can say how the case will turn out. However, I pondered why executives would buy more than $15 million worth of shares 2 weeks ago if they felt the outcome would have a negative material impact on the company financials. Those are the main bear cases I've heard, though I've decided to use them as an opportunity to purchase at this current valuation. I'm siding with the insiders and following their purchases based on my initial research that I'll go over here shortly. I also believe that in the government loan situation, when the stock rose 1,000%, that was partly because 99% of the investment community was caught off guard. They thought Kodak was dead. In my opinion, investors may once again be caught off guard when they realize that Kodak is entering the electric vehicle supply chain, working on fuel cells, developing transparent antennas with a company owned by General Motors and Boeing, have patents to go along with them, together with General Motors, currently building a $20 million facility to manufacture reagents for the healthcare industry, and currently building out a very large facility to treat all types of fabric, driven by, quote, significant interest from major hospitality businesses, much of which, to my knowledge, hasn't been PR'd by Kodak. However, they were disclosed in the recent 10K filing. In fact, I don't even see mention of EV and transparent antennas on the 2020 annual report, only the most recent one. Had I seen this lingering from the last several years of reports, I may look at these items differently. While some of these activities have apparently been in the works for 2 to 4 years, several years at least, in my opinion, it's now become material information as they near potential production and thus have disclosed them on this recent 10K 2 weeks ago. And then, of course, we know insiders purchased $15 million plus worth of shares thus far, immediately following what I'm considering subtle disclosure. No PRs, again, to my knowledge. However, given there are older white papers and patents out there from, say, the last 3 years, I suspect some will claim that some of these items are old news. However, in the advanced material manufacturing world, I'm more of the mindset that it can take 3 to 4 years to bring these developments to reality. In fact, I'd rather wait to see contracts, to see the customers, to see it disclosed that production is nearing, rather than have invested 3 to 4 years ago. And now I believe that's what we're seeing on the 10K as they near production, which is why I'm now taking a position. With that mindset, this isn't old news at all. The technology has simply now reached an inflection point. Could it be that the insiders see the same and thus the recent purchases? No one knows but them at this point. Again, keep in mind, I'm driving my findings off of SEC filings, the latest transcript, news articles, white papers, and patents. I'm relying on those documents for accuracy. All right, so the new CEO, like in pretty much all the articles I read, he's hammering one main point that I certainly took note of, that before they spend any more money, they want to make sure there's customers in line to fill a need. And the quote is, before we spend money on anything, we make sure we're developing a product or technology that addresses a specific customer's need. He says that approach is working and points to Kodak winning 8 industry innovation awards in these last 2 years by giving customers what their industry needs. He's so adamant about the customer first focus that it led me to significant digging after reading the snippets in the 10K. For instance, when I saw Kodak was developing transparent antennas, just a few sentences in the 10K, I didn't stop at the 10K. It seemed there must be an underlying customer or customers driving it, leading to me to white papers and anything else I could get my hands on. All right, so let's talk about EV and clean energy. In the latest 10K, Kodak calls out EV and energy, storage, battery, material manufacturing. That's one of their headings, saying the coating of substrates is a critical aspect of manufacturing materials for batteries, and Kodak plans to capitalize on its expertise in coating technology to develop opportunities in this area. But then there's a subheading under the EV clean energy that says current activity. And underneath this heading, it says, over the past several years, Kodak has been using its pilot coating facility to work with battery developers to coat their materials on substrates for EV energy storage batteries and fuel cells. Based on potential commercial opportunities, we're assessing full-scale production feasibility. But then Kodak goes on to say, more recently, Kodak has been working with a battery manufacturer to repurpose a full-scale production coating machine to manufacture coated substrates for cathode and anode assembly in the EV energy storage battery market. Kodak has begun providing coated material to this manufacturer from initial production and is in the process of increasing production levels. The maximum capacity of the coating machine in its current configuration is up to 80 million square meters per year. Then under additional opportunities on the clean energy topic, they say Kodak will continue to explore opportunities to apply its extensive coating expertise to produce US manufactured components for battery assembly through potential investments and strategic relationships with battery companies and the potential acquisition or licensing of battery technology. So as I looked for further evidence of Kodak's move into the EV supply chain, I started researching for job wrecks. I wasn't, obviously this is a new area for them, new space, it seemed like. And so I figured there had to be some job wrecks out there if they really were moving forward. Sure enough, I noted multiple positions open to join Kodak for their, quote, startup opportunity is what they call it on some of these job wrecks, startup opportunity. Some of the verbiage on the job descriptions include, we provide manufacturing services in the fast-growing electric vehicle market using cutting-edge technology in the assembly of batteries. This is a startup opportunity serving the electric vehicle market. Come join us and be part of the transformation of clean energy. This facility will provide high-volume production coating services to manufacture a critical component used in the assembly of batteries for the electric vehicle market. Doesn't sound like just they're making film anymore, Kodak 100 film. They're certainly pivoting. I then found this last night on the Greater Rochester Economic Development website on a page entitled Recent Business Investments. Again, this is on the Greater Rochester Economic Development website, which Eastman Business Park, the big, what Kodak is a part of up there, is in Rochester, New York. And I'll get into more on that in a little bit. So on that website, Kodak's storied coating capability is being used to develop energy storage devices ranging from lithium-ion batteries to fuel cells and new, more efficient solar panels. Attracted by Kodak's coating services, several energy storage companies have located at Eastman Business Park. Kodak is aggressively expanding its service offering and seeks to hire more than 100 new employees. And I can, I'll share this link. I have a document put together that I will, send out tomorrow, and I'll be tweeting some of this information at points, but that's on the recent business investments for the Rochester website. So looking to hire more than 100 new employees. Back to the 10K. In addition to Kodak's note that they're increasing production levels of battery coating for a battery manufacturer who has apparently moved out of their pilot testing, I noted that Kodak called out fuel cells as well. The first company that came to mind was $16 billion Plug Power. While Plug's headquarters are 3.5 hours away from Rochester, it turns out that Plug decided to build a factory in Kodak's Eastman Business Park over the last few years. And now, just 5 months ago, Plug expanded to formally open a $125 million gigafactory near the Eastman Business Park. Ribbon cutting was this past November. The announcement said, we are very excited to be opening the world's first and largest fuel cell electrolyzer manufacturing facility here in Rochester. We'll be expanding our capability to go from making the MEAs we make today, which is the core of the fuel cell, to making the complete fuel cell and electrolyzer stack. I found that interesting, though speculative. I like facts. I'm still working to tie them farther together, the two companies, Plug and Kodak, though I found an older PR from Plug, not Kodak, which officially said they're working with Kodak for coating of their fuel cells. Again, depends on how long you believe it takes to make these projects come to reality. While it's an older PR, I just keep coming back to Kodak specifically calling out fuel cells in their latest 10K, and it wasn't in their previous 10K, only in the one 2 weeks ago, and the recent blurb about hiring more than 100 employees. In my opinion, it seems a corner may have been turned. Side note, I haven't had any time to dig on the other energy storage companies that apparently Kodak is working with, but I'll dig and publish what I find this coming week, or as soon as I find something. Next, let's move to the healthcare industry. I feel like some may misunderstand Kodak's history and core skills. Part of their business, from what I can tell, has been producing chemicals for 80 plus years. From a pharmaceutical perspective, not a chemical perspective, they even bought Sterling Drug in 1988, though they sold it in 1994 for $2.9 billion. While they certainly don't appear to be set up presently for pharmaceutical production, in my opinion, it's not as big of a shift as bears claim. They're not simply going from making rolls of Kodak 100 film to making prescription drugs. They've been in the chemical business for many, many years. So back to the recent 10K. In this latest filing, Kodak notes under the heading of reagent manufacturing, Kodak plans to capitalize on its existing chemical manufacturing expertise, including current production of unregulated key starting materials for pharmaceuticals, to implement an expansion into manufacturing diagnostic test reagents solutions. Then under the subheading of current activity, the company says Kodak is in the early stages of developing a test reagent manufacturing facility for producing reagents used in laboratory tests. Renovation to convert an existing clean room to a current good manufacturing practices, CGMP, facility is underway. And that's end quote. Even more notably, the ER transcript says, quote, "We have started the construction of an approximately $20 million facility to manufacture reagents for the healthcare applications. As part of this investment, we are currently in the process of building out a clean room manufacturing facility and plan to pursue FDA certification as a CGMP facility." Now, again, recall the newest CEO's customer first approach, that they won't spend money unless there's a customer driving it or customers driving it. And it's based on that, it just seems to me they wouldn't be making a $20 million investment in this facility if they didn't have customers lined up. Again, I'm working to find out what I can to see if there's what customers I can find. But again, it's a significant investment that the CEO has said he wouldn't make unless they had customers that were driving it. All right, let's talk about fabric coating. From the recent 10K, under the heading of light blocking technology, the company says Kodak plans to leverage a proprietary technology to commercialize a carbonless fabric coating designed to offer superior light management from complete blackout to selective light filtering and coating compatibility with an unmatched range of fabrics. Then under current activity, subheading, it says Kodak successfully developed and tested a product branded Kodalux for blinds and drapery coating applications. There has been, this is all a quote, "There has been significant interest in Kodalux product from major hospitality businesses." Another quote, "Kodak is completing the installation and commissioning of its proprietary fabric coating plant in Eastman Business Park, located in Rochester. Kodak expects the coating facility to come online and start supplying product in the second half of 2022. And once again, go back to the CEO's comments, why would he be developing this facility that I see an application out there for it. Actually, if you look on the Rochester city's website, there's an application out there that they filed for a 32,000, Kodak's filed for a 32,000 square foot industrial building. They're sort of repurposing, I think, an existing building for a large textile coating plant. $4.2 million investment in that building, from what I can tell on the application. As I find more information on this, I'll post it. On the application, it says there are multiple phases for this project. Phase 1 includes light blocking and other proprietary coatings applied to traditional draperies and textiles sold in hospitality, consumer, and entertainment segments. Light control coatings applied to non-textile based products, and PPE, personal protection equipment products, including apparel, room dividers, window coverings, and other proprietary materials. The 10K also calls out The same advanced materials group who's working on this light blocking technology is also manufacturing a specialty material used by a 3D printing customer, and goes on to say that their functional printing group concentrates on contract manufacturing, development partnerships, and/or licensing opportunities in very high resolution 3D printing solutions such as printed electronics. So they evidently have a 3D printing customer, they call it out specifically, for this other technology they're working on. They said development partnerships may include non-recurring engineering payments for Kodak's efforts to further develop such technologies into products. Also, a portfolio of products is offered to enable others to utilize functional printing. All right, now on to transparent antennas. The company states in its latest 10K, Kodak plans to leverage its proprietary copper micro wire technologies and high resolution printing expertise to contract manufacture custom transparent antennas for automotive, commercial construction, and other applications requiring excellent radio frequency, RF, and optical performance. The integration of antennas is growing worldwide due to the rapid expansion of 5G and an overall increase in RF communications. And the ubiquity of glass surfaces makes transparent antennas attractive for multiple end-use markets. That's all a quote. Then under the subheading of current activity, the company says, quote, Kodak is working with multiple customers in several market segments at different stages of the commercialization process for antenna products. Kodak is making a modest investment in manufacturing infrastructure in 2022 to meet the needs of RF antenna customers. Once again, back to the customer first stance that the newest CEO has hammered in on articles that he's not moving forward on spending money unless it's for a customer or customers specific solution. So that made me want to dig a little bit on the transparent antennas. Indeed, it appears this has been in the works for several years, similar to the electric vehicle batteries and fuel cells. I see no mention, though, of antennas in the 2020 10K, only this most recent filing. And I just wonder if that's because it's becoming more material as they near production. As I dug farther into it, I came across a company called HRL Laboratories, a company who's focused on enhancing technologies, quote, enhancing technologies for an automotive, aerospace, and defense industries. HRL was started in 1948 by Howard Hughes and then spun off in 1997 from the Hughes Aircraft Company and is now jointly owned by Boeing and General Motors. It operates out of Malibu, California on its 72-acre campus. They focus on R&D for Boeing and General Motors, though also handle government and commercial contracts, prime and subcontractor. They have limited AS9100/ISO accreditation and are part of the Department of Defense's Trusted Foundry program. As it turns out, HRL and Kodak have been working together to advance transparent antennas. From a white paper, which these can be downloaded, you have to sort of sign up to download the white papers, enter your information, and then you can download them. But from a white paper, I found, quote, learn how Kodak and HRL Laboratories with General Motors initiative and transparent antennas for automotive applications have advanced transparent antenna technology through an HRL designed 4G LTE applique antenna, which was fabricated using Kodak's state-of-the-art copper microwire manufacturing capability. While they note 4G in this blurb, this snippet, recall their latest 10K includes 5G in that snippet for the transparent antennas. Another white paper says, quote, Kodak has developed a new manufacturing process for creating highly transparent radio frequency RF devices such as antennas, RF filters, and electromagnetic interference EMI shields on flexible substrates. The process also allows the covert placement of devices without impacting functional performance. Given the criticality of conductivity for RF device performance, Kodak's manufacturing line is notably positioned to provide microwire patterns with low effective sheet resistance and high transparency for a wide range of RF applications, end quote. And then back to the statement in the 10K about transparent antennas, where it says Kodak is working with multiple customers in several market segments at different stages of the commercialization process for antenna products. So it appears one of the customers could be General Motors based on the white paper. In fact, I see a patent out there from the end of 2000, I think it's December of 2019, a patent from Kodak for this, a couple patents for Kodak for this, and at the same, right around the same time, maybe 3 months later in 2020, or right around then, a patent from General Motors as well. So it sure appears that General Motors is one of the customers based on that. But I haven't had time to research to see if the other customers might include Boeing, Department of Defense. As I come across additional information, I'll post to Twitter and StockTwits. We're nearing the finish line. I want to mention how Kodak calls out brand in their 10K as a business segment. They say brand segment includes licensing of the Kodak brand to third parties. Kodak currently licenses its brand for use with a range of products, including digital, instant print, 35mm cameras, printing and scanning, batteries, apparel, eyewear. We intend to continue efforts to grow this portfolio of brand licenses to generate both ongoing royalty streams and upfront payments. Brand licensees use the Kodak brand on their products and use their own distribution channels. While Kodak had a tough go at it for the last 20 years, I still feel it's an iconic American brand, one that was evidently highly involved with material support in the world wars and has this long history. And retro and throwback can occasionally be cool. So in my opinion, this segment could actually do better than some bears might believe as they try to revive, their name, and especially if they go into these other technologies. All right, we're just about done. All right, so how about their asset in Eastman Business Park in Rochester, New York? I'm working to dive into this more, but I found an article that said Kodak collected $11 million in lease payments in 2020. And the CFO expected that figure to grow to $14 million to $15 million, $14 or $15 million in 2021. And keep in mind, they're basically a landlord to Plug Power, these different companies. The business park is 1,200 acres, evidently sprawling over 4 miles with 16 million square feet of manufacturing, distribution, lab, and office space. The property even has its own railroad. There are now 114 companies on site employing over 6,000 people. I also read in an article that there's 400 acres more to expand. Companies such as Onsemi, Li-Cycle, and Plug Power have made it their home. I found where even Amazon is now moving in with a $50 million distribution warehouse. I found the application out there where they're moving into the Kodak's business park. I found the application on the economic development website. The park has its own wastewater plant that can treat 36 million gallons daily, an industrial water supply that can process 54 million gallons each day. It also has a 117 megawatt power plant that produces electricity, steam, and chilled water. I read in an article that access to these resources is one of the reasons why companies like Li-Cycle are establishing operations here. I also saw where Kodak said over the next few years, Kodak would like to use the park to further support its own business units. We're really focused on opportunities where there's a synergy between our businesses and our tenants' businesses. Several tenants already support Kodak's as suppliers or customers, end quote. As a business owner myself, I could only dream of the organic possibilities that would seemingly come from being landlord to the large companies within Eastman Business Park, and more companies are apparently headed their way. I'm working to dive into this more. For instance, how much of this is owned by Kodak? And if a large portion is owned by Kodak, I'm wondering if the market isn't giving nearly enough credit for this asset alone in New York. If Kodak were a $20 billion company, this asset might not be a big deal, but we're talking about a $495 million market cap company with this size property. Lastly, the Kodak's software segment. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a PR noting an expanding relationship between Kodak and Microsoft. Their latest 10K notes that Kodak's software business offers a leading suite of solutions for print, production, workflow, including Printergy workflow products. By providing customers value through automation, web integration with other Kodak products and other third-party offerings. The workflow software is used by customers to manage digital and conventional print content. Production workflow software reduces manual errors, help customers manage collaborative creative process. Kodak believes it's a leader in production workflow solutions for the commercial print and packaging industries, with over 15,000 systems installed in some of the largest printing and packaging establishments around the world. And here's where it gets a bit interesting. The 10K says Kodak plans to expand the Prinergy. It's their trademark name, Prinergy, expand this offering with its cloud-based Prinergy on-demand platform in early 2022. And I noted a PR at the end of 2020 when this software was originally developed that said Kodak launches Prinergy with Microsoft to provide advanced business solutions for the printing industry. So if Kodak's now expanding their Prinergy offering with a cloud-based on-demand platform, sure seems like it could be Microsoft again, since they're the original developers, at least based on that PR from when it was originally developed. All right. So in conclusion, Kodak is a 130-year-old iconic American company with intellectual property, technology, resources, and a name that has inroads with many companies in many industries. With my findings above in mind, and given Kodak today trades at $6.29, market cap of $495 million, my personal price target is $6.90. Just kidding. Not in all seriousness, I believe the market will be caught off guard with what Kodak has going on. However, one never knows. We'll see. Please make sure to do your own due diligence before investing. Do not rely on my DD done in late hours of the night, and make sure you understand some or all of your investment may be lost.
Like, that was awesome. That's what we call a due diligence dump. That was great. Unbelievable. Good work you put together there. Man, guys, we'll take a a few minutes for questions. If you have any, I guess we'll get if we can, 9:45 the latest, because we got to bring Mark Gomes on. So if you have any questions, either raise your hand or put it in chat. I'll get it started with a couple. I mean, let me just give you kind of my sentiment reaction to everything you said. The two things crossed my mind. One of them is, man, they have so much stuff going on. This seems like a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate business, right? So looking at that market cap, and even the EV is very low, 582 million. I want to throw one other thing your way. There was someone on Twitter who's been DMing me saying that in addition to everything you talked about, there's a $1 billion surplus in their pension fund. And I don't know anything about that. I don't know if it's correct, but they're saying that's an asset that can be monetized. So I don't know if that's in the whole EV, enterprise value formula that we see on the financial websites, but that's something you might want to dig into. So yeah, that sentiment wise, I'm like, this does not sound like a $500 million company. The other thing I wanted to mention is kind of like the flip side of that, right? The negative side of that is, when you were first talking about EV, I was like real excited. I think the 100 new employees article, that was crazy. Was that about the EV batteries?
So in fact, let me see. So let me just, I can show you, if I share my screen for a second, I can show you like the screenshots.
Okay. Yeah, you should be able to do that now.
So let's see.
But as you bring that up, where I was going with this is, sometimes.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
No. Oh, sorry. No, you probably can.
Yep, I see it.
I found this humorous, by the way. I saw this. They were talking about insider buy. David Gene acquired a total of 577, cost 15.48 million. And then what's happening? As though what's driving it? A U.S. patent for inkjet printing methods. And I'm thinking, that must be a bot, because they didn't dive into it very far to pick out General Motors. And
that is a bot, yeah.
I found that humorous to say what's driving the $15 million. All right, so here's a couple of the job recs out there. Their cash, 362 million right here. And then they've created this Kodak Cell Assembly Center that, they have goals up to 2030, energy storage hub. And I'll put this document out there for people to sort of review. Kodak Cell Assembly Center, development, manufacturing. There's but let me get to, I know there's a particular one, energy storage, cell assembly center. And again, some of this stuff is over the past couple of years. So if you feel like, I could see some people saying this is old news, but if you're on the mindset that it takes, Plug Power, what, 3 years ago, it was a $4 stock or something, that company, they hadn't, but once they turned the corner, things started to move, right? So if you think that it's going to take a few years for this, then this isn't old news at all. This is relevant today more than ever. So there's the $50 million Amazon distribution center. Here's about the Eastman Kodak Park. But then let's get into, there's the application for their Kodalux. They're building it for the fabric coating. Eastman. Oh, so here's that from the Greater Rochester Enterprise website, which you can find that today. This, if you just go to their website under recent investments, you'll see this, attracted by Kodak, 100 new employees down here.
Hold on. Let's look at that. Attracted by Kodak Coating Services, several energy storage companies have located at Eastman Business Park. Kodak is aggressively expanding service on seeks to hire more than 100 new employees. Okay. I don't know. You can't, not necessarily, those may be two separate statements. I don't know, right? The 100 new employees, not necessarily related, but it could be. Yeah, interesting.
Sure. Yep, agreed. And this, then there's the Plug Power, where it mentions it was working with, or this is the new $125 million Plug Power Gigafactory opened in November. Not
interesting. Plug Power PR'd that, but Kodak didn't.
Right. So that was back when Plug Power, this is what, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, the Plug Power sent out that collaboration, the PR. And then here's the Kodak and Microsoft working together originally when they developed the Prenergy, back in end of 2020. So now we've had a year and a half or, a couple of years, and now they're planning on expanding that to cloud-based. And that's where it seems like it would circle back with Microsoft. And they're saying early 2022 for that. And they talk about the strategic, plan to transform the company. You can find that on Twitter's website. And there's articles underneath there that people this business reporter has posted. But
so anyway, the point I wanted to make just about the sentiment, right? On the one hand, it's like, hey, this looks like a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. I love all that DD dump he did. I'm like, this makes me more confident as like a long-term investor. But at the same side, the flip side of that is like the meme traders or the short-term traders, or if we're looking for a huge pop, they may be looking at this and say, that bear point you made, that they're just like throwing things up against the wall. They're not focused. It's not a pure play EV, right? Like, even though, it may not logically make sense in terms of what this means for the financials of the company longer term, I think a lot of investors have that kind of take, right? That they're more interested in pure plays, and this looks like they're throwing shit up against the wall.
And that would have been the case. I would have said the same thing a couple of years ago, cryptocurrency and whatnot. But again, that was, sort of old leadership that was doing the cryptocurrency and whatnot. And Jim has, evidently cut all that out. And now he's saying that he wouldn't be moving forward with any developments unless there was it filled the customer's need. So I kept going back to that statement and looking at how he seems to have come through so far with his plan. But I definitely, they have a lot going on, to your point, with all these different aspects. There's a lot going on. It's not a pure play EV by any means.
Let's take one question, and I'm going to kind of reword it for Todd because I had this question earlier. It's about management. This new CEO that came, actually the two questions in here, both kind of related to management. This new CEO that came in, I think Jim, you said his name is, 2 years ago. What's his background? Where did he come from? Does he have any experience and credibility in turnaround stories or managing, lots of diverse businesses like this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely read an article where it said that he has a past of transforming companies, and that's why he was given the reins. I didn't dig into it further than that on that particular topic. I didn't dig into it further.
Okay, that would be cool. We'd love into that. That's a part of it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we could probably be here all night, but in the interest of time, we're going to find a way to continue to collaborate with you, maybe get into the story trading community. And you'll share this document with us.
I will.
All right, we'll find a way to get that.
I need to clean it up. I need to clean it up some, but then tomorrow at some point I will get it out there.
Okay, excellent. And with that, if you want to hang out and listen to Mark Gomes, he's going to give a presentation in just a minute. So Mike, awesome presentation. So glad you finally made it on after all these months and quarters. I've been trying to get you on for other stocks, but maybe this will be a very profitable ride for us here the next few months on Kodak, I hope.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So wrapping it up on Kodak, if you want to collaborate with us on that name, we don't have a dedicated room for it yet. You can collaborate in that VIP research room. You can get the latest, follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at StoryTrading.